I can imagine that probably one of the most frustrating things when it comes to makeup is getting that right foundation, isn't it? Like if it doesn't start right, what's the saying? Not gonna end right. So let's talk a little bit about finding out what your tone is, making this process easier, whether you're just trying to shop it as you're testing it where you're at your local store, or maybe you're trying to get it online. All right, let's talk about it.
If you're here, then you woke up today. And that is a blessing. Don't take that for granted. Don't waste it.
All right, so I did mean what I said about starting the process the right way, right? Because if you don't have that first step the way you need to start it, chances are the rest of the makeup is not gonna look so good. So I want to get my hair out of my face because we're gonna go from nothing, I have nothing on other than my sunscreen, to just the foundation. We're not gonna even get into any other makeup, just a before and after, no foundation look, okay? So let me kind of break this down a little bit before I kind of swatch for my tone, and you can see maybe how that's supposed to look like. But if we start with like, what is my skin tone? Like, we don't even know sometimes where we are personally at, right? And that can change. I don't know if you know that, but of course, our skin throughout the season goes from a little bit of a darker tone to a little bit of a lighter tone. So we probably need to have more than one foundation shade. I won't get into my whole spiel about creams, but it's truly one of the reasons why I think cream makeup, especially foundation, is so key, because you can use different shades to get the right foundation. We don't have one, most of us do not have just one shade, one pigment shade on our face. I mean, you can clearly see even from my face that I've got areas of spots and redness. I've got different shades. And so I need to then choose a couple or maybe 3 shades to get the right foundation that I want for my face, for my base. But let's go back a little bit about our tones, right? We've got fair skin, which typically is a very light, often kind of is the one that kind of burns quickly, like when you're out in the sun. You burn very, very fast. That's very fair skin. My husband is very, very fair skin, very fair skin. He can't not stay out in the sun for like a long period of time before his sun just blisters red. It's insane, like how much tolerance my skin has, because I'm a darker pigment than he is. But that's a very fair skin, right? Then you have someone that has a lighter skin tone, and that one is more like with a warmth, right? Still kind of borderline fair, but it's light because there's a touch of warmth in it, just slight. Then you can go into like a medium skin tone. Now this is kind of where I fall in, this one and then the next one, but the medium is more like a neutral to olive toned medium skin tone color. And then I can also fall into this one in the summer months, which is like a tan look, which is golden or caramel skin. I fluctuate from those two, from a medium to a tan. Then you can have a deeper skin tone, which is like just rich brown skin tone, darker than my pigment. And then of course we have a very deep skin tone, right? Which is much more like cooler to then like that warmth undertones. That is like your deepest skin tone color in pigment. All right, so find your variation in there. And again, you may have the 1-2 like I do, or you could just be one flat out, like you're very fair skinned, you know that you're very fair skinned, period. So find where in that in that scale that you fall into to say, okay, that's my skin tone. Because you need to know kind of what tone you are before you can start diving into the tones that your skin needs, right? Makes common sense. But let's talk a little bit about another way basically to also see what favors your skin tone, right? This kind of may be a little bit outside the box of like what I'm kind of talking about, but it'll kind of all make sense. It'll all kind of be very cohesive. And what I mean about that is that sometimes you probably have heard about checking to see like what whether you can see the coloring of like your veins. And I've got like the sun that's kind of creeping in through my window this morning, but you can see here with me that underneath, right, because this is like the fairest true skin tone for me, this is clearly one that's very exposed, but your hand is usually inward, it's not getting a lot of the sunlight, so this here would be more like of your skin tone, and you're able to see like your the sun. Can you see how that can look very, maybe you could see it better in the skin in the sunlight, but whether the veins are more green tone, are they blue tone, like that can really help you to determine what skin tone you fall under. And it's like basically like knowing what your undertone color, which is kind of like what I was saying about how this area is just not as exposed. It's your true tone to your tone. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing is like the jewelry test as far as what looks best with you. I love to wear like silver a lot of times, but I noticed that the gold looks much more appealing to my skin tone than a silver. Even though I love silver, I love to wear silver, and I do wear it, but the gold it brings everything more. I love the word cohesive, and it's the word that kind of comes to my mind, but it just brings everything together, and you'll be able to tell whether, like, check both out, see what's more appealing as far as to the eye when you're wearing silver versus gold. And I mean, you can mix and match, and that's not what this is about, but it's just kind of seeing what's going to be the thing that gravitates to what looks warmth in you, right? For me, it's gold. So here is my palette full of like the foundations, right? They're called highlights with Seint. These are all Seint creams, but here are different foundation colors, right? You can see yellows. They look yellow. Some of them look more peachy. Some can look a little bit more in the warmer colors, right? And you're like, how can I decide from looking at all these shades what's going to look best? I think what typically seems to gravitate to our eyes is to always go with like a lighter shade. We just think going lighter is better, is brighter, but what a light color is going to tend to do is show all of the texture on your face, show all of the blemishes, because it's going to seep right through that color. And it's kind of like, I think, especially if you are from my generation, right? Like that's what I always thought was like looking at all these different bottles per se when you would go like to your favorite makeup store and saying, okay, that shade look like it's gonna look good on me because it's a little bit just lighter skin tone than my pigment. I have been doing like color matches for quite some time, and I've seen different tones in faces. And so let me shut that because that mirror is reflecting back. But I want to show you basically like what, by comparison to even my tone, I'm going to swatch over here along my jawline a few shades that I want you to see what looks like will blend or like disappear basically like along into my skin tone, because that's going to be the color that's going to be for me. And they look very close, very, very close. Now, I do have one shade that I normally go into like color correct. I personally think that it's important to do that if you do have more than one tone on your face. And typically, how I like to go ahead and put on my makeup when it comes to cream is by putting a very like thin layer of my color match color first. Take care of evening out like some of my areas of hyperpigmentation and then going in with like my foundation color. So for the most part, I think 2 shades is ideal for most color matches. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with just showing you 3 of the colors that I will pull depending on kind of what my skin is saying that day or that season, right? The first one that I normally gravitate to is this one. So let me swatch this one. This one again is called Goddess. I'm gonna put this one right down the middle, okay? I hope you can see that, right? That this is gonna be the shade for like the main shade. And then I'm gonna show you what my color corrector does after I swatch a few of these. So the next one that I sometimes will pull is this one here is called Golden Hour. And if I put this side by side, like this is Golden Hour and this one here is Goddess. You see, it's so close. I don't want to put it in too close to the sunlight, but they look very much alike. But truly, depending on the skin tone that your skin is giving out, it's gonna make a difference. So let me swatch this one here. And if you can see, this one's a shade lighter than this one, just a smidge. It makes a difference on how it looks like on the skin versus when you're looking at it on the tin, which is the reason why getting a color match, I think, is so important. On the website for Seint, there is a place that you can actually get a color match. But I think sometimes getting it into the hands of someone that's really just dissecting your face, your shades, what it is that you want to cover as far as blemish and what have you, you're not going to get that from a digital test, right? But you're more than welcome to go there. I would love to go ahead and color match you if you would do a color match. I always have one down below in my descriptions. Just go ahead and hit the more and it'll drop and you'll see where you can get that. I see a picture, I tell you what shades are for you, and you go on there and you shop these shades. This is the next color. So I do the 3 again, just depending on the season. And this one here is called Hazel. Okay, now I'm gonna swatch Hazel right on the other side of like my normal shade color. Now, again, very, very similar. I can't put these all up in my hand. I wish that I could and bring it up. I should have gotten a palette and put it in there so that you can see. But can you see how much these look alike? The sun. I'm recording this a lot earlier today, and it's a battle between the sun rays coming through. Very similar in color. But again, you can see the distinction when you swatch. And if you look, which one of these would be more than likely to blend into my skin tone than the other. So let's try that. I'm taking a brush and I'm just going to press this there. Okay, okay. It looks like it's lighter, right? Let's go ahead and try now the one to the outside, closer to my mouth, which was Hazel. Okay, what do you think? It looks like it's, you know, seeping into my skin tone, but just still being a bit too light for my skin tone now. And again, all those blemishes, all that hyperpigmentation Maybe not right when you're putting it on, but as the time goes and everything just settles, it will seep through. So let's try now Goddess, which is the first one that I chose. And let's press that one into the skin. And we can see really how that Goddess in the middle is the best choice. Is going to, and mind you, I haven't put that color corrector underneath as that first layer and then going in with my main foundation, which is what I'm going to do really quickly for you. But I wanted to swatch 3 of the closest shades for my skin tone that, depending on the season, is where I would fall into choosing for my foundation. Okay, let's go in with the color correcting shade. And this is how I typically do my makeup when I want it to stay on like all day. I don't want to fuss with it. I want to make sure that, you know, I have all of the areas that I'm concerned with be at bay. And so this is the choice that I would make. This makeup, a little bit of micellar water, and just take this off so that we can start fresh with like that color correcting color. And I will show you how this is going to then look overhauled. Okay, so this is my choice for the mango. It's called Mango. It's the one that will do the job for color correcting areas on my face that are discolored, that I want to make sure that when I go in with my main foundation, it's gonna be exactly where I want it. Okay, but what I do is I will take and place this in my nose. Typically is the area where I have and I hold a lot of that darkness. Most of us do, because it is like the part of our face that's just protruding out, right? Like our forehead, our noses, that tends to get most of the sun. And then I have it along the way here, like up of my lip. I do a splash like underneath my eyes, very little, but I have it like along my cheeks. This is like my main concern. And what I basically do is that I'm gonna take now a brush and buff this color on, like so. Take a brush that has a little bit of movement, but not too loose. And I start to buff this first layer. It is gonna be so thin and ready to put on the main foundation right afterward. And you'll see that even with putting this first shade on, it's taking care of not entirely all of the hyperpigmentation, because that's gonna happen magically when I put on my second shade foundation, which is that Goddess color, the one that was in the middle, that was closest to my shade. Okay, so let me add just a bit here underneath my eye. And I can see just areas that it's coming through. You can even do a dash if you've got a lot of redness or discoloration in on your lids. Add a little bit of this color corrector. But again, it would help if you want to know your exact shade colors, to do a color match with me. And now I will go ahead and tell you if you need it on your lids. I know for me, I've noticed as I continue to age, a lot of my eye area, clearly we know it starts to thin out more. And even on my lids, I will see now a lot of the finer veins kind of like seeping through. And so I want to take care of that with this color corrector and just have more of a evenness, right? Cohesiveness along. So I have this one shade. Now what I do And I either do this at the end or in between. It depends on, honestly, whether you're new at this or you already more kind of experienced along the line. But that's using, I've talked this before. I don't know if maybe you've seen any previous videos where I share about using a sponge, right? A beauty blender, because this really does help the process of having a lot of the cream makeup absorbed and not make it have looking cakey, right? Now, I'm not going to use it now. I used to in the beginning when I first started to use cream makeup, because I had to get used to on not having too much. I think typically when you first start, you think you need to use a lot. And I think that's just the case with most people. And that turns out that then they feel like they don't like the makeup. They don't like the cream. And it's not about that. It's just knowing how much to pull back on. So in the beginning, I always say, like, use a beauty blender, specifically one that's meant to absorb. This one is with Seint and it's called the Perfector. I think this is the best one to use with this particular cream. And it does such a great job in absorbing the excess of that cream on your skin so that it then doesn't look like it's cakey, because I'm going in with my second color. Now, I used to use it now before going into this next foundation step, but I already know how much I placed on my face. You can see it was very, very thin. In the beginning, I used to put a lot more than that. And I think it helped until I kind of found my groove, so to speak, along the way on perfecting using the Seint cream makeup. So I'm going to go in now, before I use the sponge, with Goddess, right? And I'm going to place that one all over my face. But instead of buffing it in, I'm going to now take a little on the brush, just very little. And I'm going to now press and kind of like just pounce this shade on top. Okay, so I just go very little along the way, because it really is less is more with makeup, especially when you're using cream, and especially if you're just getting used to how much to pull, to bring in. So I think just taking very little in the beginning, it's easy to just go little at a time at the beginning, and then having to feel like you have to over blend out, and then you end up just removing a lot of it. So just like take your time in the beginning with this process of just taking a little on the brush, little on the bristles, and then just pouncing this second shade in so that you don't disrupt that first layer of color corrector that you just did. And what I like to do is I take a smaller brush just to get into maybe like the nose area where you feel like you do need a little bit extra coverage, right? Because of that discoloration, and underneath the eye. And I'm not sweeping, I'm just quickly like pressing and pouncing the cream along. And now is when kind of like I think the magic really does come together. I have that foundation on. That's all the video is today about. I'm not going to do anything else, but I want to go ahead and show you at the very end the difference, right? When I first started, a side by side with the foundation, and how much more just unison as far as your coloring will look, and you'll be so much happier than to continue with the rest of your makeup, right? So I am going now to use my sponge, right? And I am just going to press. Now I have prepped this sponge, and what I mean by that is that it is a lot smaller when it's dry. And what I do is I wring it under water and then wring out as much as the water as I can from the sponge. And what I need for it to do is be just cold to the touch, but not drenched of water. I take like a towel paper or like a towel, and I will press on it, just absorb as much water as I can from it. Keep rotating the sponge as I'm pressing this cream on. And really it's just absorbing. And if after you do this, it should just feel cold to the touch to your face. If you feel it wet, it's going to pull the makeup off, and you're gonna feel like I don't have any makeup on. The other thing is, once you're done and you do have this prep properly, if you want to go back in and just hit certain spots with your main shade, you can do that, or with your color corrector in certain areas that you may see that hyperpigmentation. But it will give you the most flawless skin-like makeup that you're just gonna fall in love with. So I'm gonna leave it here this week, and if you have any questions in regards of finding your tone for your shades, or what's the best technique to put on this cream makeup, anything at all, like, I'm here. Leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you